Hey guys, welcome back to the Jace Down podcast. I'm here today to talk about Aaron Rodgers going to the Pittsburgh Steelers, which we all kind of saw um, happening here. He got cut by the Jets after a 5-12 season last year. Wasn't very impressive. Then now he signs with Pittsburgh, who we all like to predicted he would be going to. So I'm going to get my thoughts on that and the Steelers as a team and where they sit right now. Going into the 2025 season. But make sure you guys hit that subscribe button right here on YouTube. Check us out on Jace Down on Instagram, TikTok. You can find us right there, clips, reels, all that good stuff. So make sure you're doing that and hit that subscribe button, like I said. Now, Aaron Rodgers, the 41-year-old veteran quarterback, Super Bowl champion, 4-time NFL MVP, longtime Packers starter, goes to New York for a year. Everybody was hyping, oh yeah, the Jets finally have their quarterback, and we saw what happened with that. He gets hurt his first year there. Then he comes back the following year, and still just a very lackluster season for the Jets. Nothing new. And now he's a member of the Steelers, a very historic franchise with a coach like Mike Tomlin, who is just always able to get his team to a winning record. Nothing really super impressive. He's never had a below 500 season in his over 10 years as head coach there in Pittsburgh. And since Ben Roethlisberger retired, the Steelers have not really been able to find consistent play at the quarterback position, much so. And going through Mason Rudolph and Kenny Pickett, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields over the last couple of years, and now they get Aaron Rodgers, right? So I don't know. It's weird. I honestly don't think it's gonna, we all know how Aaron Rodgers is. He's a drama queen. He starts stuff. His take on things is very funny when you watch some of the interviews he does and things like that. I mean, is the talent still there? I mean, yeah, sort of, right? He's aging. He's not Brady. But he's still a decent quarterback. But I just don't think. I think Pittsburgh is in a situation right now where you have better options. So honestly, if I were them, I would have took a quarterback in the draft. Either that, or I would have tried to keep either Russ around or keep Justin Fields around. They let both of those guys go. Right. So, that was very questionable to be from the Steelers front office, but I guess they were, they had their eyes dead set on Aaron Rodgers from what I can gather, and they're hoping that he would eventually sign with them. Rodgers played this whole waiting game for no reason, but we all knew that's where he was going, and he goes there. Now the Steelers have him for a year, but still your future outlook is kind of uncertain, right? You don't know what you're going to have in your QB position for the future. So it's I don't like the move for the Steelers personally. I don't like it. I think you could have done much better than Aaron Rodgers personally. Like I said, he's on the last leg of his career, and you got the off-field stuff with him. It just wasn't the right move to me. I wouldn't have made it. But they're in a position right now where, they had to go with what they got. They had to get what they can get, and question for me for the Pittsburgh Steelers is can they make an impact in the playoffs, right? Can they get to the playoffs? Can they make it? We know they can have a winning season. That's all they've been doing since Mike Tomlin has gotten there. But can they finally make an impact? And the AFC North is a hard division. We know that. You got the Bengals, you got the Ravens. I'm not concerned about the Browns right now yet until they figure out who their quarterback is going to be. Come week one, more likely not, it's going to be Joe Flacco. But that's a discussion for a different podcast. But the Steelers have, like I said, it's a tough division. The Bengals defense was really bad last year. That's why they didn't really do much when it comes down to team success because as Joe Burrow had a fantastic season, his defense was just not that good. And, of course, the Ravens are going to do what they do. They're going to have over 13 wins, 14 win season, go to the playoffs, But and you look at the Steelers, you got great defenders. You got T.J. Watt, who's an all-world defensive player. Offensively, you go and get DK Metcalf. You trade George Pickens away to the Cowboys, but you got DK Metcalf out there. Calvin Austin is a very talented receiver as well, very underrated player for the Steelers. I like. I just don't. I think they should have got another playmaker. We'll see what Roman Wilson does. Hopefully he can step up into a prominent wide receiver role for them this upcoming year. But I really think they should have got another guy in the draft to complement DK out there. We'll see how it goes. But the Steelers are one of those teams for me that just isn't, I think they're just still going to be what they are. They're going to be a 500 team until, they make the changes offensively that they need to make. They need to step it up a notch offensively, and Aaron Rodgers to me just wasn't the answer for that personally. I think you could have, Justin Fields when he was playing, for the Steelers, we got the passing, right? They got the passing woes. He's not the most polished passer in the NFL, but yeah, he's with the Jets now, but he's not the most polished passer in the league. Russell Wilson, on the other hand, is really only good for the deep ball, for being honest, at this point in his career. But you could have, I would have kept Justin Fields. I would have kept him. I would have tried to build my offense around him, give him some good playmakers out there at wide receiver in addition to DK Metcalf, and incorporate his run game, of course, into the offense. I think that would have gave this Steelers offense a boost, a spark that they need, because once you get closer to postseason, you get into November, December, January football, in the playoffs, like you gotta, your offense cannot just be, we're just gonna dink and dunk down the field, or we're gonna, just run the ball here and, like a few counters, whatever, a little play action pass every. No, that's not gonna work. You gotta have your offense has got to be able to move the ball up and down the field, stay ahead of the chains, move consistently. And that's just not going to happen when you have an offense that's just kind of just steps, like takes 2 steps forward and takes 2 steps back at the same time, stepping on their own toes. It's just not going to work. The Steelers just have had a very mediocre offense the last for some years now. I wish they would just they made a move here or there. They could have moved it up a notch, took it to a different level, and they haven't done that. But they believe Aaron Rodgers is the answer for them. They think this is, gave him a 1-year deal. It's like, hey, we think we have enough talent for you to bring him in here and, see what we got, 1-year deal, see how far we can get into the postseason. So we'll see how it goes. But honestly, I don't see much from them, maybe a wild card appearance, if that. But they're not going that far, again, especially in a stacked division like the AFC North is. So just something to think about. You guys let me know what you think. Was Aaron Rodgers to the Steelers a good move? I don't know. You guys let me know what you think in the comment section. But yeah, that's pretty much what I want to talk about today on the show, on the podcast here. Short little episode, not too long. We're going to have more stuff coming out for you guys during the week. Make sure you check us out on TikTok. We'll have more information and videos there, more content there for y'all. Be giving some rankings, wide receivers, running backs in the next couple of days. So be on the lookout for that. We'll see you next time on Jays with Them.